may have heard of Sergeant Dakota Meyer. He received the Medal of Honor for his actions in the Gangel battle in Afghanistan. September 8, 2009, he had orders to stay back while his unit of 4 other men set out to the village to speak with the elders. They were ambushed. For 6 hours, the American Marines, soldiers, and Afghan soldiers fought the Taliban. After hearing repeated requests getting denied for backup, Dakota, who was still on base, 2 miles away, I think it was, decided to take matters into his own hands and go save his brothers who were caught in the gunfire. In every recount of his story, he says, "The military teaches us to obey orders, but what it also stresses, and in this case was more important, is to never leave your brothers behind." So Dakota set out not once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, but 5 times into the gunfire to find his brothers. His co-author, Bing West, of his book Into the Fire, says to go into the firefight requires grit, instinctive, and few men. To go in a second time, knowing what awaits you, is inner resolve beyond any call of duty. To go in a second time, knowing what awaits you requires inner resolve. To go in a third time is courage beyond any call of duty. To go in a 4th time is to know you will die. Even in a 5th time, Bing West says that is beyond comprehension. When he found his brothers, they were all dead. About a year later, almost to the day of the Gangel battle, he was home in Kentucky driving his truck when he decided to pull over since after a night of drinking. He put his gun to his head and pulled the trigger. It's not working.
Did somebody check them?
Just queuing.
Today I'm going to discuss military suicide and why it is a problem in this country. I will discuss the magnitude and negative effects, the cause, and the solution. Less than 1% of the U.S. population serves in the military, but 20% of all U.S. suicides are military personnel. 95% of them are male. 47% are under 25, college age. 88% are white, 95% are enlisted. The majority of them have never been deployed. And most of them commit suicide in the U.S. Another statistic is that from 2008 to 2010, from 2008 to 2009, the suicide rate in the U.S. increased by 10%. The next year, it increased by 18%. That's almost doubling every year. What is the cause? Shame. According to the article, Understanding and Preventing Military Suicide in the Archives of Suicidal Research by Greg Bryan in 2012, the military teaches you to suppress high levels of pain and discomfort. While this is effective in combat, when you're stuck on base, it does the opposite effect. So the solution for me to you guys is to know the solutions and to know the signs and symptoms and what resources are out there for a friend or family member who is in the military. And according to the survey, everyone who took my survey knows at least one person in the military. And since every life is important, this information is important for you to hear. So the signs and symptoms are to recognize risky behavior, increase in alcohol, anxiety, just sentences like, "I feel that there's no way out, life is worthless," withdrawing from friends and family, threatening suicide or self-harm, that's obvious, and especially acquiring ways to kill oneself by acquiring guns or pills for an overdose. And I know this personally because my neighbor actually did this before he committed suicide. He started giving away his belongings. So watch for them giving away their belongings. What you should do, this is when you want to actually confront them. Remember to talk with them in a private setting so they feel comfortable. And remember that they're hurting and they're confused and they don't know what to do. So remember to be supportive and understand and tell them that I am here for you, I care about you, whatever you need, I will be there to help. You're here to get you help. Remember that professional help is available. All military bases have a suicide prevention hotline and a center that you can go to and speak with a counselor. And it's free also. And another big thing that deals with the shame, why they're afraid to seek help, is because they think it will hurt their career. Because the whole point of being in the military is that you're supposed to be tough. So what happens when you break and you're mentally not tough? So we have to teach them that it is okay and it is actually a sign of strength to seek out help. And 49% of the men and women who kill themselves left behind a spouse and children. And that was in suicides and suicide attempts in the U.S. military. So these are the resources. The Military Crisis Line is actually the best one to go to. It's a website, but they also have an online chat that's confidential. And they have specific sections on the website for family and friends to go to if you know someone who is suicidal, that you can talk with a counselor to know exactly what to do. You can also, if you're active duty, there's a section for you, what centers, counselors, all the resources you need for that, specifically even if you're overseas, what you can find overseas, and for veterans too. 18 veterans kill themselves every day, and 36 active duty kill themselves every 36 hours, and active duty kills themselves. That's way too many. They shouldn't even be killing themselves. But the biggest thing is that more U.S. military personnel have died by committing suicide than have died in Afghanistan. Doubled than have died. In the beginning of my speech, I told you I was going to tell you about the magnitude, negative effects, the cause, which was shame, and I presented you solutions to identify the signs and symptoms and the resources. This is also, the Department of Defense developed apps for people who are suffering with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and there's also a Breathe to Relax app that helps you calm down. And this is another Operation Reach Out. It covers PTSD, brain injuries, anxiety, and suicidal behavior, or suicidal thoughts. And then the Army created this. It's awesome. They have videos there to help you. RealWarriors.net. The Marine Corps has destressline.com. And the Marine Corps also has the Single Brains program. One of the best ways that you can help someone who's suicidal is to get them involved with friends and keep them active, which the Single Brains program does. And in the beginning of my speech, I told you about Dakota Meyer. So that night he pulled the trigger, he lived. And the only reason he lived is because he had a family member who was looking out for him, that removed the bullets from his gun. He said, when this happened, he decided that since he didn't die in Ganjigal, amazingly, and he didn't die killing himself, that he wasn't going to go out that way. It wasn't his time to go. And he decided to never think about suicide again and to live for his fallen brothers. He says, this is him, Dakota Meyer. He says, a lot of people call me a hero, and it kills me because he let them down. He feels that he is a burden to his team and to the families because he didn't bring his brothers home alive. He says, I feel like the furthest thing from that because I let those guys down. Anything that comes out of it, it's not for me. It's for those guys because they are the heroes.